Listen, I got to get right into it because we recently spoke with Alan Iverson, and one of the things that we talked about was December 19th, 2006, as you know, the day he was traded to the Denver Nuggets. And I'll ask you what I asked him. Wasn't there a way to continue to make it work?
Well, we had talked about that probably a couple weeks before the decision was made to move him, and we had agreed to make it work. He wanted to be here. I told him that the plan was to build some young talent around him. And then about a couple weeks later, maybe it was even a week later, he came back, got a call from Leon Rosen and said that, Allen wants to be traded. And I said, we just discussed this, are you sure? He goes, yeah, he's sure. I said, all right, I'm going to go talk to Allen because once this train gets moving, it's going to be hard to put it back in. So we talked. I went down in the court and I said, you sure? He goes, yeah, I think it's time. I said, okay. I said, now we're going to do this. I said, but once it gets going, it's going to be hard to pull back. And he had said it's time. And I felt it was time also. So, he gave me a couple of places that he'd like to see if we can do it. And I said, if I can make it work, it helps us, we'll do it. And Denver was one of them. So I felt good that he was going to a place that he wanted to be. And I felt the organization was able to restart with Andre Miller and some picks and cap flexibility. So, but it was, we tried, but I think it was probably best for both parties at that time for a clean break.
I think about Moses Malone, the late great. I think about Charles Barkley and those trades. And it never seems you actually get
Yeah.
what I guess you would term full value for a superstar. Do you think it's a general rule that is the way it is in the NBA?
Yeah, you generally are not going to get full value because either if you're trading a superstar in their prime, maybe you can get another superstar in their prime. But generally, if you're trading one that's towards the past, and I wouldn't say Allen's past his prime, but he was on the other side of his prime, it's going to be hard for you to recoup, actual value. And if you're getting somebody else a superstar that you may not want what's coming. Generally, when you're doing it, you're trying to either clean your books up to give yourself flexibility, get as many assets as you can so you can start to rebuild. But it is hard to get true value. I remember when I first got in the league, Mitch Richmond was being traded, and Jeff Petrie said, "Bill, I got to get an All Star." And I kept saying, "You're not going to get one." And he waited. He ended up getting Chris Webber at that point. He was young and he was an All Star. And when he made that trade, but I think that helped Sacramento. I don't think it helped Washington as much because I think Mitch was on the other side of that equation.
You had mentioned that Leon Rose, now, of course, the president of the Knicks, was representing Allen then. Uh, Presented you with a couple of options. You said Denver was one. Are you at liberty to talk about the other? And did you have a deal in place there as well?
Yeah, the other ones were, the Clippers was one, and then Minnesota was the other one. And I talked to all three as well as talked to a lot of other teams to see, and you'd be amazed some of the other offers we've got from teams during that process. But it just came down. One of my mentors, who I won't name his name, who was a current president GM, gave me a strategy. He said, you got to get people bidding on each other. Got to make them think that the other one get is going to be tipping the balance of power. And that's what I did, especially because Denver, LA, and Minnesota were all in the same conference. And so it got to the point where Denver made the offer that I thought was best for us. And I knew that Minnesota couldn't beat it because I knew what they needed. They were trying to get, they couldn't accomplish, and I knew the Clippers couldn't get it. With the Clippers, I was trying to get that point. They had a young Sean Livingston, and I was trying to, if I could get him in the deal, I thought it'd be a great move for us at that point because you put a young Livingston who was a 6'7", 6 point guard with Andre Iguodala's buying skills, with Corver, with Corver, with Willie Green, Thaddeus Young. I thought, same with that, we'd have a young dynamic team, but couldn't get him in the deal.